Hi everyone, welcome to the next episode of the Daniel Chia Show. I'm really excited to have a great special guest, one that I've been meaning to invite on for a long time, and I know a lot of you have been asking me to invite him on the show as well. So I have so many questions, and I know you guys have as well. But I just want to take the time to say hi for those of you who joined us right on time. Thank you so much. We have Charles, Nicole, Vincent. Thank you so much for being here. And Brock, nice to see you. And yeah, do let us know which part of the world you're watching this from. I know in Singapore it's a late Friday night. Thank you for being with us here. There could be many other things you could be doing tonight, but thank you for joining us here. In the US, it's going to be early morning. So hope to see some of the US friends come on maybe even later in the show. And those who are in Europe, it's a nice afternoon here. And yeah, thank you again. It's been such a wonderful time. Just earlier this morning in Singapore, I had the great Greg Fishman for a live stream. And tomorrow I'll be having Jeff Kashiwa. So this is a triple live stream week, which I'm so excited. Just so many people that I want to learn from and share with you guys as well. So let me see. Hi, Michelina. Nice to see you. Nicole from Malaysia, and we have Ismail from Texas. Wow, that's awesome. Thank you so much for being here. If you guys are new to this channel, don't forget to subscribe and click on the notification icon, and you can watch a lot more videos. And yeah, those who are watching with us on Facebook, you can click on the link above to come to this YouTube chat as well. And later, I'll be sharing the website and YouTube channel of my special guest too. Let me try to expand this a bit. Let's see. If not, I can't see the comments. Okay. Gonna zoom in slightly. Hey Ben, nice to see you. Um, Kirsty from Glasgow, Scotland. Thank you so much for joining me here. We have Nutapat from Thailand, I assume. And Russell, nice to see you, Miss Lu. Russell asked if I ever sleep, I'll have a good nap, maybe on Sunday. But yeah, I'm really happy to be doing these live shows and sharing with you the stories and the journeys of all my favorite saxophonists and musicians. Jeff, nice to see you all the way from Guatemala. Wow, that's awesome. Hi, Daryl, nice to see you. Yeah, Nutapat from Thailand. Thank you so much for joining. And yeah, you Okay, so sorry. That was a rookie mistake. I got myself kicked out of my own stream. So you had a glimpse of my special guest there. I'm trying to control everything myself here. Wendy, nice to see you. And yeah, I think thank you so much. I think more of you guys are streaming in now already. And yes, I was saying don't forget to share this link on both Facebook and YouTube as well. Share it on your social media so we can have more friends joining us for this great show. So, um, today my special guest is based in France, and he is Mr. J Metcalf, and he runs an amazing website and YouTube channel. Bettersax. He's built this company, and I know of so many people who watch his videos religiously, myself included, and I gain a lot of it. And I was telling Jay earlier, I'm really inspired by the way he shoots the videos and how informative it is. And I know how difficult and time consuming, video editing and doing all these videos can be. So I'm so excited to ask him many questions as well. Hi Saunders, nice to see you. And you say love Jay. Yeah, I think a lot of people do. And we have Adrian from Singapore. Nice to see you. And yes, without further ado, we have Mr. J Metcalf. J Metcalf. Hi, Jay. Nice to see you.
Hey, Daniel, how's it going,
Hey,
man?
it's good. It's good. How's everything where you are in France now?
Uh, it's pretty good, I have to say. As you know, we had to deal with the COVID situation, but things are pretty well under control, it seems, and life has been more or less normal for the last couple of months.
Nice, nice.
Yeah.
All the restaurants, live entertainment, are they all back to normal now?
Yeah, we have been going out to our favorite restaurants and doing gigs. So yeah, and those are the things you really miss when you're stuck inside for all that time. So it felt really good to be able to get back out, see friends, and do those things, play music. Yeah.
Mm, that's great. Yeah, maybe Jay, if I could start off, what led you to France, being based in France now?
Okay. Well, when I was younger, when I was 21 years old, I went as an exchange student and studied in England, in Birmingham, at the Birmingham Conservatory in the UK. And from there, I started traveling around Europe, and I ended up in Nice in the south of France. And I immediately met musicians and started playing music and fell in love with the place and France. And, I stayed for several months, but then I went back to the States. And then when I was back in the States, I could only think about the south of France. So I would go back and forth, when I could and visit. And then eventually, after about 4 or 5 years, I said, you know what, I'm going to move to the south of France and play music there. And that's what I did. That was about 20, that whole thing started like 25 years ago. And then I lived on and off in the south of France for several years, going back and forth. And I moved back to New York. For a time, I lived in Copenhagen in Denmark. And then about 10 years ago, I moved back, and I haven't left since. So most of the last 25 years, I've been living in the south of France.
And if I'm not wrong, you were a repair technician in Denmark as well?
Yeah. Well, I first started repairing saxophones in New York,
Mm,
and that's where I first learned.
mm,
And on Long Island, where I'm from.
mm,
And then while I was in my younger days, I traveled around Europe. I played a lot of music. And one summer I was in Copenhagen, and we had this gig. We were supposed to play this gig at this big performance. And the bass, there was a double bass in the band, and the bass got damaged in the plane. So we needed to get a bass for this gig, and the gig was Sunday and it was Saturday, and we were just arrived in Copenhagen, and we desperately need a bass. So we start going to the music stores, and the internet existed back then, but it wasn't, you didn't have a phone, and you couldn't just like tap, double bass Copenhagen and find one. You had to like get phone books out and use payphones and stuff and call people. So we ended up going into this music store. And I remember walking in and saying, wow, this is the most amazing music store I've ever seen. There's all these beautiful saxophones, and it just looked amazing.
mm,
And I asked them if they had a bass, and I know we don't have basses, but let me make a phone call for you. And the guy went and got on the phone, came back on a piece of paper and said, go to this address. They're waiting for you. They have a double bass for you. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. And then before he left, I said, I'm also a saxophone repair technician. I'd love to work in your shop because it just looks so amazing.
mm.
I'm like, do you have a job for me? And they were like, and he said, maybe. and then that was it. And then we went off and did the gig. And then I went back like a week later or several days later. And I thought, oh, you remember me? I asked you about a job the other day. And he was like, yeah, I remember. And I'm like, so how about it? They're very, and I ended up working there. And that is the shop where, I don't know if anyone knows of Peter Jessen. Peter Jessen is a great saxophone repairman, but he also invented or redesigned a saxophone. He builds his own saxophones. It's the F mezzo soprano saxophone. If you haven't seen that, look that up on YouTube for videos of that. It's an amazing instrument. So I worked there and really learned the fine art of repair at that shop. That shop is called IK Gottfried. And if you're ever in Copenhagen and you're a saxophone player, it's a must visit.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So how different was it, doing, repairs in New York and in Denmark?
It's an enormous difference. I mean,
Wow.
it's worlds different. I mean,
Wow.
well, it's tough doing repairs. It's a sort of job that you end up in general, you end up doing mostly student instruments. Most repair shops are doing student instruments. That's the bread and butter. That's how they make their living. And because those are the instruments that are broken the most, and there's so many of them, right? And especially in the States, there's so many school band programs. There's just tons of instruments, and they send them all in the summer to be fixed. So a lot of the repair work by a lot of repair technicians is that, and you got to do it fast, and it can't be too expensive. And then you've got the other side of repair, which is just the high-end stuff for professionals. And that's different because the professionals are not smashing their instruments up and breaking them so much. It's the occasional overhaul. But if you do an overhaul correctly and really well, it's the sort of work that it doesn't need to be done again for 20 years or more. You see, so if you're doing a really good job as a repair technician, you don't get, you see your customers once every 20 years for a big job, and then they'll just come in for minor adjustments once or twice a year and be good. So but the culture in that shop in Denmark was very much professional, and they treat everything the same way, even the student instruments. It's the same philosophy. So at first it was awkward for me. Well, not awkward, but it was just totally different, because I started working there for a week, and I'm trying to do my best work. It's like I'm on a trial, and I'm there for a week working, fixing saxophones, doing my best. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm really doing a great job on these saxophones. They're gonna love the work I'm doing. But for a week, they don't say anything to me. Nobody gives me any commentary, no feedback, So I'm like, what's going on? So finally, after the first week, I fixed a bunch of instruments, and they're like, okay, let's have a meeting, and they say, you're working too fast. And I mean, this is for Americans. This is something it's a concept that no one's ever heard of. There's no such thing as working too fast. It's like, no, you have to go much slower. And, we do everything very slowly here and very, very, very carefully. And so everywhere I had always worked in New York, was like, you got to get as much done as fast as you can, make as much money as possible,
Yeah.
and they are the opposite. So that really helped me a lot. It not just we're approaching fixing instruments, but kind of a philosophy towards a lot of things. Slow down. It's more important to do things really well than to get a huge quantity of mediocre work done.
I'm definitely guilty of that. Yeah, as well,
That's typically that's typically how it works, though. That's how businesses work. To stay in business, you have to make money, or you're not going to survive. So this is in certain, it's a rare thing, and this is something in Scandinavian culture that they're still able to keep going. Is quality trumps quantity and speed. And that's why it's such an amazing shop to visit, and an amazing country, really.
That's amazing. We have a question here from Saunders from the US. He's asking, are the commercial opportunities better or worse in France versus any other places that you have lived?
Commercial opportunities, I guess you're meaning playing, performing?
Seems like it, but Saunders, you can let us know as well.
That's a good question. This is very different. In France, we're very lucky with the system of being a professional musician in France. When you're a professional musician in France, they have this system of where musicians are getting paid. Once you qualify for the system, you're getting paid even when you don't have gigs. So, for example, a musician who works like where I live in the south of France, in the summer season, it's very busy. You could be working every single day for months. But then in the winter, January, February, March, nothing will happen. You won't be work at all. So they have this system where you're paying into the taxes quite a lot with your gigs, but then based on lots of different factors, in the months where you're not working, you would get like a paycheck, sort of like unemployment for that time. So this is a thing that allows musicians in France to really work just as musicians. Whereas like when I lived in New York City as a professional musician, I didn't know anybody who was only playing gigs. Just about everybody is playing gigs at night, but they're teaching during the day, they're repairing instruments, whatever. They're doing other things to make the ends meet, So there are opportunities here, but it's a system, it's an economic system that allows musicians and artists to kind of live and have a standard of living that they wouldn't be able to have without the social system.
That's really interesting. I never knew, and I'll
Yeah.
definitely look more into that. But I'm just thinking off my head, like, would that be very hard to brand yourself in terms of your playing ability if the pay almost becomes does it become like normalized across the board?
Oh no. I mean, in order to qualify for that, you qualify by doing a certain amount of professional work. So you have to be working a certain amount of, declared gigs, the gigs that are on the books and paying into the system before you even qualify. And then, and you have to maintain that amount of work each year to stay in that system. So it's reserved for professional, but it's not just for musicians either. It's something like in if you work on movie sets or if you work in tours, like backline, the technicians, they are in the system as well. So maybe you work and you do concerts, you're a sound engineer for concerts, and you work all summer in the South, but then in the winter there's no work because you're in the same system of that. But everything is based on the amount of work you do and how much you pay into the system.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
that's really interesting system. Do you feel it's much more beneficial than, let's say, what happens in New York?
Yeah, I mean, in New York, there you get nothing. In the States, nobody gives you anything. And you don't even have health insurance. So if you're a working musician, at least when I was there was no health insurance at all. Around the time I left, they started implementing a sort of pseudo thing, but it's still extremely expensive. So my friends there who are paying health insurance, from what people have told me, they're paying huge amounts of money, but they have to have health insurance now. When I lived there, I just didn't have health insurance. That was my solution. I said, well, I could pay rent or I could pay for my health insurance. Rent, So by living in a country where you've got the social system where you've got health insurance, and not only that, I mean, I'm paying it when I'm doing gigs here. I'm paying into my retirement. So those are two things that are essential for anybody, no matter what your profession. But in the States, that doesn't exist for musicians. So you're responsible for your own health insurance, your own retirement. And most musicians can't even, if you're just working as a musician, you're having trouble just paying your bills. So yeah, I mean, there's two sides to this. the level of musicianship is certainly higher in places like New York, but that's due to other factors. I wouldn't say that making life easier for musician would reduce the quality of the music. I think it would, if anything, it would increase the quality of the music, because instead of spending countless hours doing jobs just to pay the bills, musicians can spend all their time making music and being creative.
Yeah. Wow. So interesting. And thank you for sharing that. Definitely going to look more into this. Never knew there was
Yeah.
such a system.
Everybody wants to move to France now.
Yeah, yeah. While you're talking, I'm like, wow. I've been to Nice once. We
Mm,
performed at the Midam Festival,
mm.
years ago. That was my only encounter. 6 7 days over there, and yeah, man, my mind is, you know, thinking about possibilities now. Do you think this happens in the rest of Europe as well, or only in France?
Well, I know in Scandinavian countries have a similar system, because when I lived there, it was a similar system. Each country has its own setup, so I can't really speak for that. But generally, yeah, Europe is much more. The social system is very strong,
Wow.
and in general, the community tries not to let people fall through the cracks too much.
Mm, mm,
And the culture in France, they put a lot of importance on culture, whether it be music or art or just design, things like that. So they understand that is important. When I lived in New York, I never felt that that was a priority of anyone, on a government level, of saying, okay, we need to keep these musicians and these artists living in New York because that brings character to our city. That's what makes New York a great place. So by creating systems that make life easier for them and attracting musicians, we make the city better. I never really felt that in my daily life in New York, like anybody wanted me there for my cultural contribution. I always felt like, work, go to work, make money, pay the bills, or get out.
yeah. Yeah. So interesting. I'm trying to arrange a session to invite Scott Hamilton. He's one of my all-time favorite saxophonists. He's based in Italy now. So
Yeah,
once we
me
get
too.
together,
I love his playing.
yeah, man, and I'd love to. I'm sure there must be some reasons, why he chose to. He's been in Europe for a long time,
Mm.
so definitely gonna ask him about that as well. Yeah, we have Ben Martin says, "Hi guys, you're both my favorite saxophonists on YouTube, my absolute idols." Wow,
Thank
thank
you,
you so
Ben.
much. Yeah. And we have Adrian. Adrian has an interesting question. He asks, what is your impression of China-made saxophones? Do you think they will surpass Taiwan saxophones in the future in terms of quality and price point?
Wow, that's a good question.
Mm,
Well, I got to say, the Chinese saxophones that I've played in the last few years have been very impressive, especially for different reasons. Some of the really inexpensive ones that I've tried have been impressive in that they're able to make something that is that good at that price point. And then some of like the really high end Chinese made saxophones I've played have just been impressive saxophones. Really, really good. Definitely on par with some of the Taiwanese saxophones. So that's certainly a possibility. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens with that.
mm, mm. Thank you, Adrian, for that question. Let me bring this up. Hi, Ben. Nice to see you, Ben from Singapore. We have Saunders asking, did you arrive at your choice of coals to record with by chance or by design? I assume that's a microphone.
It is. I've got.
Mm,
Well, it's here. So
mm,
let me. Well, I have it here. I'll try to get it because I was just recording something on soprano.
mm.
Oh, actually, it's on. You can actually even hear it in my thing. So this is the Coles mic,
Mm, mm,
and this is like an old. It's like a British design, like radio mic. It's a ribbon mic,
mm.
and it's something they used to use in like the radio broadcasts a long time
Mm,
ago, and they
mm,
still make them. And I had just seen it used in a lot of recording situations, and I knew a lot of recording engineers really liked that mic
mm,
for saxophone, and I wanted to try a ribbon mic. So I got one of those, and I've been playing on that for the last couple years, and really like it. You know, microphones, when you record a lot, microphones are like an instrument in themselves. So you have to learn how it works, how it sounds, where it, all the settings with your gear, and
mm,
so many things. So you got to spend time with it. It's like a mouthpiece.
mm,
So
mm,
and not being a professional recording engineer myself,
mm,
it's very much an experimentation thing. But
mm,
I feel very comfortable with it now, and I enjoy using it. And it's also I like. I mean, it's expensive, but it's not crazy expensive.
mm, What's the price point like roughly?
I think that one is like around 1,000 or $1,100, something like that.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Not that crazy in the
Yeah,
world of mics.
yeah,
Cool. Thanks for that question, Saunders. And Ben says very interesting and musician employment system in France. Yeah, for sure. And we have many Bens watching here today. Ben Martin, you're asking, how would you recommend starting off in a professional scene? You're currently studying saxophone in music college and trying to expand your options of getting your foot in the door.
yeah. Okay. Well, the professional music scene is very much a network of musicians. You're getting hired by other musicians for work. There are agencies and there is that, but even in the agencies, it's usually musicians choosing who's doing what. So your networking skills are really, really important. Obviously, playing the music is important, but it's for the getting of the work. There's lots of really good players everywhere. So and the ones who get the good jobs are often the ones who are good at networking and have very good people skills. You, I tell this, like yeah, you have to play well, but you have to be likable and kind of outgoing to get those gigs in the first place. And some things you can do when you're starting out is like if you want to like I've lived in lots of different places and I've showed up I've arrived in different places without knowing anyone. And basically what you want to always do is go meet all the musicians you can right away, bring your instrument with you, meet people and wait for them to invite you to sit in and play, and then you have your instrument with you and then you're ready for that opportunity. And then you'll get a long way that way, just meeting the musicians and playing whenever there's a sitting in opportunity. Those musicians, and then you tell all those musicians, look, I'm looking for work, I want to play, and they will tell you about the gigs or the playing opportunities that maybe they don't do anymore, stuff that they used to do, but now they're too busy with other things. So like, oh, you know what? There's this band that rehearses every whatever, and they always need a saxophone player, or so you find those other opportunities from the musicians you meet. So get to know all the musicians locally.
Hmm. And Jay, maybe if I could ask a follow-up question, do you feel it's important for saxophonists starting out to try to develop the other areas to get work? It could be teaching, repairing, their own YouTube lesson, channel, etc. Do you think, they should try the plain thing 100% first, or from the get-go try to diversify a bit?
Yeah, that's a very good question too. I when I started my career, the advice I got from my teacher at the time was do everything you can, be a jack of all trades, because it's tough to make a living. That was the advice in New York, and that's in and this is in the 90s in New York. It was like, you need to do as many things as you can if you want to live a comfortable life and make a decent living with music. A lot of people would just went straight into teaching and the public school system because, and that's great because you get your summers off, you get a nice salary, you get your health care, you get your retirement, and in a lot of cases, it's a very enjoyable work. And then you have the time to play music on the weekends, so a lot of people did that. I had it in my head that I was not going to go that route and go into teaching in the public schools full time. So that's part of the reason why I went and I did my I learned instrument repair, and then I was teaching private lessons. And then I was just looking. I was trying to get as many different gigs as I could. So I was trying to be able to do all kinds of gigs. So I was practicing my clarinet and my flute so I could do all the doubling gigs. In the States, we have a lot of these musicals, and there's a lot of performances in theaters. So I did a lot of doubling, and I have all the different saxophones. And just trying to diversify the amount of different jobs that I could do. And that worked.
Mm. Okay, I'll leave the question about Bettersax a bit later. Let me look through some of the comments. Miss Lu says, "Thanks, Jay, for elaborating on the system. This is definitely something we can study." And Ben says we could do with like 30% of that here in Singapore. Ben, I'm not sure what you mean 30% off. So you can let me know in the comments. Charles has a good question. Jay, language must have been an issue. Did you speak French already before moving to France?
I did not speak French when I moved to France, and I learned it here. And that was, that was an issue. Where I live in Nice and where I first started playing music here, there's a whole community of Anglophone people, English speaking people from the UK, from America, from different places. And English is sort of the international default language in Europe when people don't speak the local language.
Mm.
So at first I was able to communicate with enough people, but it was a priority for me to learn French as quickly as possible because, for work, I mean, you could get by a lot without, but you need to speak the language for many reasons. But certainly, if you want to be a professional anything in a country, you need to learn the language. So I just focused on it for about a year. I really focused on learning it, and it comes quickly if you work at it.
Mm, cool. Yao Ren says, hi, thank you for joining. I know it's late, but thank you for being here. And let's see. This is a very good question, which I've been meaning to ask as well. Charles asked, Jay, where do you learn video editing? Your pacing is excellent, lighting, sound is also very excellent, and high production value. I
It's funny.
100% agree with that. So Jay, maybe you can share more about how you got started doing that.
I mean, honestly, I didn't learn it anywhere. I never took a course or even a class or anything. When I started making the videos, I was doing them on my phone, and I really knew nothing about it. But I just applied the same things I would for learning music or learning a language to learning how to get better at making videos. I watched other people do it, and then uh, you know kind of transcribed what people are doing. I would watch YouTube videos and say, "Oh, I like the way they're doing that. How can I do that?" And then I would just kind of try to figure it out. And as far as the gear that I use, I had to get good production quality with audio and video. You need to spend some money. So I little by little would upgrade the gear, and with cameras and stuff, you get a really nice lens and a nice camera. It makes things look good. You get a nice light. I've got a really great light that I use. It does make a big difference.
Mm. Jay, if I may ask, what's your camera setup now?
right now I'm using the Canon EOS R with, I mainly use the 18 to 35 millimeter lens, which is
Mm,
2.8.
mm,
And that's like a popular, like if you watch like people like Peter McKinnon and stuff, that's what he's been using like the last year or two. So that's an expensive setup. That's, you're looking at, I don't know, $3,000, $4,000, something like that for that.
mm.
I didn't start with that, but I gradually built that up, and yeah, I'm glad I did because it's a pleasure to work with that camera. I really love it.
That's awesome. And Saunders has a question. What is your take on the Scios mouthpiece situation?
Yeah, big question. Everyone's asking. I've got some now. Pauline just sent me a box of a bunch of them, and I'm making a video about it.
Mm,
And I don't want to say too much now because that video will be coming out soon.
mm, mm,
But I do have a lot to say about them. Like anything else, if you're really interested in those mouthpieces, the best thing is to try them. They have a full money back policy. So,
mm.
you have nothing to lose by trying their mouthpieces. And everyone, I think, should try them just because they're being played so much everywhere. It's
Yeah.
something that everyone should try. Having said that, there was a lot of mixed feelings. Some people love them, some people can't stand them, and some people are I can't make up their minds.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's they are definitely very interesting. But there's a lot of this. I'm going to kind of go into deep detail with them when I do this video.
For sure. And Saunders, maybe I can chip in a bit also because my shop just brought in my first batch of Scios. And I actually had Pauline on a live stream on my saxophone shop YouTube channel called Saxo SG. So Saunders, maybe we can check that out. It's like 2 hours of Pauline answering questions and sharing. So, but of course, that's just hearing about it. I think, like Jay said, really nothing beats trying it out for yourself. I think they're great at a great price point. And, but as a shop owner, I just try to give people, more options. So yeah, it may not be for everyone, but at that price point, variety of sounds you can choose with the models. And yeah, so just give it a try. So let's see here. We have Vincent from Singapore. Hi Jay, I see that your horn set up at the back. Quick question on accessibility of instruments and probability of practice. Do you intentionally set them up so that you tend to practice on more?
That's a good question. So I always used to have like my one saxophone that I was doing my gigs with every day, and that was in the case by the door, ready to go. And when I was working so much, practice was just it. I didn't get to practice every day. I was traveling all the time, and so the saxophone was like the tool to go to work with.
Mm,
And it came out of the case to play, went back in the case to the hotel, to the plane, to whatever. And then when I stopped doing all of that and I started doing this, I kind of set things up and I realized it's nice if you just leave things out, set everything up. And I leave the saxophones out, so they look nice in the background of my YouTube videos. But also, it's more practical when they're out. If you have the space for it, I used to be into always putting the saxophones away in the case. It's actually nice to leave them out because they dry. All the moisture on the inside is just going to dry out. So after you play, so even at my practice studio at home, I leave them out on the stand. I clean them all out first, obviously. Then I put them on the stand. The cases are all put away. They're out of the way. And since I'm not doing a lot of gigs now, I don't need it like ready to go out the door. So if you can, and if you're just playing at home or as a hobby and you have the space, leave them out, but make sure you're still playing them every day. Don't be one of these people that has the saxophone on the stand like furniture and it gets covered in dust. If you're not going to play it every day, then put it away, I'd say.
mm. Cool. Yeah. I think definitely helps accessibility part for sure. Ben is clarifying. He says Singapore could do 30% more culture. I think many countries could do with many percent more
Yeah.
culture. But that will be another topic. Yao Ren is asking piano, saxophone. I'm not sure what you mean by that. Let me know. Or you're asking Jay and I to play a duet. I'm not sure. So let me know. And Javier says, Bettersax, one of my favorite YouTube channels. Love the interview Jay did with Bruce Williams. Yeah, I watched that one too. And Jay, you've been bringing on amazing saxophonists and interviewing them as well. The last one being Jason Marshall.
Mm.
So maybe let me just drop this link here for people who are maybe new to Jay and new to his channel. I'm gonna drop in his YouTube channel in the comments right now, so please subscribe to it. Check out all his videos. Tons of interesting. I love the one with, um, man, suddenly, Jaleel Shaw. You know,
Mm.
about and all his Mayor New York and all. That was a
Yeah.
interesting one. So, but
Yeah,
yeah,
it's interesting. So a lot of so that those three interviews I did, like the Bruce Williams one and the Jason Marshall one, I did on the same day in New York.
wow.
And you, even if you watch carefully in the Jason Marshall one, at some point he talks about Bruce Williams, and I said to him, "Oh yeah, I'm going to see him later on."
Oh, I didn't see.
And then I Jaleel Shaw was the next day. Chad Lefkowitz Brown, that was the day before. So I was in New York for like 4 days, and
Mm,
while I was there, I was doing like two or three different filming content things a day around New York. Now, I used to live in New York. I know a lot of these people, and so I was able to easily set this up
mm,
and get around it and do that. And then right straight after that happened, the whole COVID-19 thing happened, and
mm.
all of that obviously would be impossible now.
Yeah, crazy. And Ben says thank you so much for that and all you guys do, and it's always insanely helpful. Thank you so much, Ben.
Yeah.
And let's see. Ben, another Ben is asking, hey Jay, will you have any new saxophone courses coming up?
Yes, I have one. I know it's been a while. I've been promising my next course for a while, and it's interesting. I ask myself, how did I finish these courses before? Because it never took me so long to do them. But as I'm just getting busier and busier and making more content, and I seem like I have less time. And then, of course, as my, the courses keep getting more and more involved and complex than when I first did them, I guess. I don't know. So anyway, I have one. It's nearing completion, and this one is the next one is going to be all about harmony and like music theory for saxophone players, for horn players. I mean, it's the same music theory for everyone, but usually that stuff is taught from the perspective of piano players or harmony instrument players. I'm kind of teaching it as a saxophone player for other horn players, and because it's the same rules, the same everything, but maybe it's another. You're looking at it from a different angle to work with an instrument that only plays one note at a time.
Mm,
And it's also it's the sort of thing that a lot of people either avoid because they think it's maybe too challenging, or they avoid because they think if you approach music too from too much of a technical perspective, it takes away the musicality or something. And neither one of those things is true.
mm,
So I'm trying to, bring this knowledge to people that need it, but have been reluctant to study it.
mm, mm. That's great. And thanks, Ben, for asking that as well, because that segues nicely into being able to talk more about bettersax.com. So I dropped the link in the comments so you guys can check it out. Jay has tons of courses there. And Jay, maybe you can share more like how did this concept come about, creating a website and, a YouTube channel to go along with that.
That's yeah. Okay. So I was doing this gig in the Bahamas, and we had this other guitar player who was just playing with us for that week, and he was a friend of one of the other guys in the band, and he said, "Oh, I got this website where I'm teaching guitar lessons, and it's going really well." And I said, "Oh," and this is like 10 years ago. It was a long time ago, before it was really like a common thing like it is now. And I said, you know what? I could do that because I've always done a lot of teaching, and teaching has always been something I've enjoyed doing and I felt I was pretty good at. So I said, I could do that. And so I had the idea, and it was just floating around in my head for a while. And then I was actually using YouTube and internet courses to learn lots of stuff, to learn different instruments, or just to learn languages, to learn different things. And I said, man, and I would take some courses. I said, and I said, wow, this information is presented so well. And I learned so much, and it was so cheap considering how much information I got. And I could go back and rewatch it over and over again. I said, I got to make this for saxophone because nobody's doing it. And so I made my first course, the Pentatonic Foundation. I spent a lot of time on that. And this was an idea that I had while I was doing a lot of gigs and a lot of playing, the concept of that course. So I made that course, and then I had the course. I'm like, well, how am I going to tell people about it? How is anybody going to know about this course? So I found YouTube, basically, and I started making the YouTube videos as a way to just tell people about my courses. And then I don't talk about my courses very much on YouTube. I basically just use YouTube now as a way to connect with a lot of saxophone players in the world. And I try to give out a lot of valuable information, because that's what the internet is now, right? It's just information. It's all there for free. So I just try to do that. And I'm lucky that enough people watch me that, I only need a certain percentage of those people to buy my courses for it all to kind of work for me. So it's nice that I can do the YouTube channel without constantly telling people, buy this, buy that. And that just kind of happens organically on its own.
That's cool. And Jay, maybe if I could ask, there are also, several other people doing saxophone online courses. What made you decide to keep it like, a course by course system rather than, let's say, a monthly subscription model?
Yeah, great question. I've thought about doing a monthly subscription model. I've thought about it. And I guess it's mainly my personal preference. A part of it is my personal preference. When it comes to learning something, you get like, sometimes you'd be like, I want to learn how to play piano. Like, but that's this month, I'm not, or I want to learn how to, do something. So, or I want to get good at making videos. So you want to take a course, and you just want that information. And maybe, it's just nice to be able to purchase a course and then you've got it. And then you could go back and maybe 6 months later, you're like, I remember I bought that course and I went through it a little bit, but I didn't finish it. Now I want to get the camera out again and go back. So I just think it's better for the average person. Certainly for me, when I get courses, I like it that way. Because especially with music, you learn something and you take the course, but you will get more out of that when you go back to it a year later and go through that again. But if you had to pay every month, so a lot of people are going to stop their subscription, and then they get, I would rather just you get the information, it's yours. And the other reason is it's really tough to continuously produce content when people are doing a paid subscription. And I decided I wanted to do YouTube and make content regularly on YouTube. And it's just not enough hours in the day to do both for me to constantly be making paid content and the free content. So I've kind of done it that way. And luckily, like I said before, the YouTube, enough people watch me that I'm able to continue doing that. Like if I wasn't getting enough people watching me on YouTube, I would probably have to, to make it work, I'd have to be making more paid content. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much for sharing that. We have George. George says, "Thank you for having Jay on the show. You're
Oh, cool.
welcome."
Ukulele. Is that a ukulele, George? I play ukulele.
Yeah. Oh, I can't even see that in the on my
And that's
computer
something
screen.
I studied a lot online.
Oh.
Always loved that instrument. I actually used to play in a band with a ukulele player. It was very
Wow.
percussive, like we do this like these jazz, like old style jazz things. It was very
Wow.
like jink jink jink
Okay.
jink jink, and it's got this really percussive sound, which is great for
Mm,
rhythm.
mm,
And I've always tried to play guitar, and I was always terrible at guitar because I couldn't like really contort my hands into those crazy positions. It just always hurt.
mm,
And a ukulele is so nice and comfortable, and the soft
mm.
strings. I
Yeah.
love that instrument, and so I love playing it. And doing like jazz standards on it. It's just a
Wow.
great, fun instrument, and I learned a lot. Online. I learned it all online. I never took a
Wow.
lesson from a person on
Wow.
ukulele.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
George says, yes, Jay saw your ukulele and sex duet video. I have not seen that. I'm gonna look for it
I got to
after
do
this.
more of that. I got to do more ukulele stuff because it's fun.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
cool. Brock says, that's the course I need right there. Really looking forward to it. So, yeah, Brock, do look out. The link is in the comments. And yeah, that'll be cool. And Saunders asks, do you teach anyone privately?
Not really. It's I I have from I've had many students over the years, private students, but now I don't have the time for it. So a lot of people ask about the Skype lessons and stuff, and I have to say no as much as I'd like to, just because it would just be impossible. I'm barely able to get the stuff done that I'm doing now. But one thing that I really want to do, and I know I've been saying this for a while, one thing I'd really like to do, and Daniel and I, we talked about this before the show. I want to start doing like some sort of group lessons or small group lessons with the technology that we have now that wasn't really available. Because one on one might not be really feasible, but some small group things. So that's something I expect to do in the near future. So everyone who's subscribed to my newsletter and a member on the site, you'll hear about that.
That's awesome. So Saunders, do subscribe to the website and mailing list, and follow Jay on social media, and I'm sure you'll hear about it when that happens. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think now, the online medium is gonna be, of course, it's always been here, but I think now people are starting to realize that, man, if they don't jump on right now, who knows when the gigs will ever come back. In the US, in Asia, in Singapore now, there's totally no live entertainment allowed. So it's gonna be here to stay. So yeah, do look out for that. I think that'll be really interesting. Yeah, I think the, the private lessons are gonna be quite hard. I mean, there's only that many hours a day, so and I can imagine how much time you spend on all your other stuff already.
Yeah. And one thing that I've also been doing more than I had for years is practicing. You know, I feel so many people watch me, so I'm going to be playing stuff. I really have to practice, and I'm enjoying it though. I'm enjoying practice very much as well. And the reason is because I am not playing, professional gigs as much anymore. So all this pressure of like, well, I have to learn this music for this performance, and I have to, that's all going away. And now I treat playing the saxophone almost as like a hobby, and it's just for fun, and I could just do whatever I want. And that is really liberating. So I'm practicing more than I had for years.
Mm, wow, that's awesome. Yeah, I had probably a 1 week period where I really did that, and then just things got busy again. And yeah, I think that's gonna be something I look forward to. Really, ironically, I probably don't touch my instrument as much as I
Yeah.
I should, but
It's
yeah.
it's a luxury to be able to practice. It really, really is a luxury, especially if you're making your living with music. You're usually working very hard around the clock. That's what I say to people all the time. Like if you really love music, it might not be the best profession for you because as soon as it becomes a profession, you are making a lot of sacrifices. You're
Yeah.
sacrificing your, quality of life and your
Yeah.
comfort because you're not going to make as much money.
Yeah.
And you're sacrificing your ability to make music just for the pleasure because that goes out the window and you're going to be playing gigs that you might not want to do, but they pay a lot of money. So you have to do it. There's a whole long list of things. So if you have people ask me about that, should I go into music as a profession? I say, well, if you really love music, but you're good at something else that can allow you to have a comfortable lifestyle, you might want to do the other thing and then focus all your free time
Yeah.
on music just for pleasure.
Yeah. Yeah, I tell people that all the time. Years ago, I would think that, if you want to do music, do it full time or don't do it at all. Now, my mindset is totally different.
Yeah.
And sometimes I do envy the people. They have a nice, comfortable day job. They come home and, they can just play music. I have students that practice way more than me, so
Yeah.
I need to step up my game as well. But, that's sometimes, really the honest truth, not using that as an excuse, but there are the
Absolutely.
things that are required in the music business that is time consuming as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, like if you have a job that where you get paid vacations and you get time off, the musicians don't get any of that.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
you lose all that luxury, and all you're doing is just working, and then
Yeah.
the music becomes your job,
Mm,
and usually you get less pleasure from things that are just your
mm.
job than if it's your hobby.
Yeah, for sure. Um, Ishmael says, yeah, something about group lessons helps her to ingrain and learn more for some reason. Yeah, definitely. I think it'll be great if it's, like-minded people.
Yeah,
Let's say 5 or 10 people who are all eager to learn and build, a mini community. That would be really cool. I'll definitely look out for that. With Jay as well. Brock says, yeah, it's Jay's upcoming harmony course that's what he's looking forward to. Definitely to look out. Let's see. Saunders says, love the videos where you help folks per their video they send in. Very informative. Cool.
I haven't done one of those in a while, but I was gonna do that again. I was. It's been like a year since I did one of those, and I was thinking about doing another one soon. But what's nice now is with Instagram, it's really easy for people because before I would have people upload their videos to YouTube,
Mm,
and then I would, and that's it's easy enough. But now with Instagram, it's even easier to get a 1 minute video. So yeah, I might do something. Look, check if I do it, I'll probably ask people on Instagram that week to submit something with a certain hashtag and tag me in it, and then I would, go through them,
mm,
and so it would be very, like you'd submit something, and then a few days later or a week later, I would
mm.
choose a few of them and make my video about it.
That's cool. Yeah. So for those of you who don't have Jay on Instagram already, you can look for him at Bettersax. And yeah, look out for that. That's going to be interesting. Tsuri asks, hey Jay, do you think that any wind synthesizers such as EVs or the aerophones would ever be integrated into mainstream instruments instead of what it currently is now? Something more of a novelty.
Well, it depends on what you mean by mainstream. I mean, Michael Brecker recorded on them, Bob Mincer,
Mm,
people like Seamus Blake. A lot of people are using them. But yeah, I guess it still is sort of a novelty, even in those situations.
mm, mm,
Maybe if they make those, if they, I don't think there's a tremendous amount of like research and design work going into those instruments. I think, especially like the Akai Iwi, it hasn't really changed in decades. It's the same thing. I think there's just like with any musical instrument, there's so many improvements that can be made, but I don't think they sell enough of those instruments to justify, developing them. They spend their research and development budget on other things that make
mm,
more money. So it's interesting though. Now there's a bunch of new ones coming out, and I think if somebody makes a design that sells a lot, If everyone's buying it, then that'll happen. But it's going to take someone making a design that everyone wants to play.
Mm. Yeah, for sure. Jay, which one do you prefer, the Aerophone or the Iwi?
I they're very different. I think the iwi I think is a more expressive musical instrument, and if you can get really good on the iwi, you can make good music with it. The aerophone I think is a better practical tool if you want to use it as a supplement to your saxophone practicing, and that's like the video I made. I'm still using it. I've been using it since I got it. It sits on my desk at home, and when if I need to practice something, or if I just want to play an idea, I can just pick it up and play, and I'm doing the exact same finger movements as on the saxophone, so it helps
Mm,
for that.
mm, that's cool. Yeah. Thank you for that question, Suri. And Nicole says, enjoying the practice, great thought. And Daniel Saw from the US, nice to see you. Let's see. Oh, Hans from Singapore. He says he bought the soprano sax all thanks to your review of the product. Excellent work on the videos and truly learned something. Is that was it the late soprano? Was that the brand, Jay?
That's the only soprano sax that I've reviewed, so it must
Mm,
be.
mm,
Yeah, that's a Chinese-made saxophone, and I chose. It's funny. I chose that saxophone because it was on Amazon and I could buy it in France, and it was also available in the United States, and it was like one of the least expensive ones. That was my criteria. I needed to get something, but there's no point in me reviewing things that people can't buy. So I had to get something that was kind of available in lots of places.
yeah.
But I just kind of chose it that way on Amazon, as you would,
Yeah.
And I was surprised. I really didn't think it would be very good, but it was. So,
Yeah.
and I know lots of
Interesting.
people like Brock, who's here or was here earlier.
Mm,
He
yeah.
bought one of those, and he's been posting videos of him playing it for the last year, and he sounds great on it. And he
Wow.
just started playing saxophone. I came from this thing. There was the everyone is demonizing the Chinese made saxophones back in the 90s and up until now, because for a couple of reasons. Number one, they were very poor quality in general back then, and we would get them in the shop, and you could break the metal with your bare hands, things that you shouldn't be able to do with a saxophone.
Yeah.
And they were just they were, some of them were extremely out of tune. It was just bad. But in the recent years and decades, they've really improved the quality of those instruments. And but now they're fighting to get rid of that reputation. So I'm one of those people that like knew of that, like the very poor quality in the past. So I kind of had to get rid of that. And the reason I did that also is because I was teaching at a school here locally, and some of the kids would come in with these, brand new saxophones off of Amazon, and I was like, "Oh, that's got to be terrible." And then I would play it, and I'm like, "Wait a second, this thing plays really well,"
Mm,
even though it's purple, or blue or
yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
And so that was my first. I was like, "Wow, it's actually good." Not even that it's not so bad. It's like this is good. Yeah. So, and then there was the other side of this. Now, a lot of people who are selling musical instruments are they don't want the competition necessarily of these much less expensive sold instruments that are sold directly. So they're telling everybody that that they're terrible, they're garbage, they're going to fall apart. And the band directors, in the States, everyone is putting out this message in an effort. A lot of it is to protect. It's like
Mm,
protectionism. Like, we don't want these cheap imported saxophones, and if people find out they're good, we're in big trouble. you know.
mm, yeah. I actually just had a student come in with a alto, a late alto in black, and as usual, I was a bit skeptical because we've had several come through the shops and they were really hit or miss. There was
Right.
one that was unplayable. It needed a full overhaul, which was more expensive than the saxophone.
Sure.
So, and then but this one I just played last week really played well all the way down to the low B flat.
Mm.
So, I just told the student you really lucked out and it sounds great, just stick to it and don't even need to send it to our tech. So
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, I always tell people as well that that those instruments are for if that's your budget. If you want to play the saxophone, but you only have $250, whatever, you can get that instrument, and if as long as it comes and it's not broken and everything, you should be able to play on it.
Yeah.
If you can spend more, you really should spend more and get a better quality instrument.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that those things are there for people like I want to play, but I just don't have the budget to spend more.
Yeah. And I think it's great because it just brings the barrier down. Saxophones are not cheap to begin with, not like ukulele,
Yeah.
20 bucks, 30 bucks of Amazon. So, I mean, there are positives. If it brings more people to play the saxophone, I think that's great as well.
I think so many of the people, a lot of people have been buying those instruments. And
Mm.
first of all, there's a lot of people that maybe would not have bought a saxophone if it wasn't for that, barrier. Those that stick with it and get enjoyment out of it now that they can learn with YouTube and it's a lot of those people are then going to buy another saxophone and spend more money.
Mm.
And that is good for all the makers of saxophones. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
they're bringing more people in
Yeah.
to the world of saxophone, and you're getting new customers that are going to buy your Yamahas and your Selmers
Yeah.
and other
Yeah.
things down the road.
Yeah.
So
And mouthpieces as well. So that's to the
everything.
left of yeah, Jody Jazz,
So yeah,
mouthpiece stuff. Yeah.
I disagree with that philosophy of saying only buy something expensive
Mm.
straight away, or you're
Away.
wasting your time.
Yeah,
I
for
mean, if
sure.
you can afford it, spend more. But if you can't, there is stuff you can get that's cheap that works.
Mm. Yeah. Jay, I want to segue into a question because I saw a comment from a Yanagisawa artist, which I'll get to after this, Julian Chan from Malaysia.
Hey,
But
Julian.
Jay, I wanted to ask you, your thoughts on Yanagisawa. I know you love them. Did you always play them, or is it
Mhm.
more recently you started to get in love with them more?
Yeah. Okay. Yanagisawa. So I used to. So it's funny when I first went to college for music. Everyone was playing Selmer Super Action Series 2. It was that one or the Yamaha 62. Those were like the pro horns
Hmm.
that you had to have. And if you were played jazz, you wanted a Mark 6. It was like early 90s. That was it. And the Onyx hours were there, but they were very much, on the margin of this sort of new horn. And I remember Mel Martin came and did a presentation. Mel Martin is a great saxophone player, but he was like the spokesman for Yanagisawa. And he came to my university with a bunch of Yanagisawas, did a master class, and then we tried the horns. But I didn't actually I got my first Yanagisawa in 2005. So it's been 15 years I've been playing them. And that's because I was studying with Antonio Hart at Queens College in New York, and he was big into the Yanagisawas, and I had also been playing them in Copenhagen at that shop because at the time the shop I worked at in Copenhagen was a Yanagisawa dealer, so I'd been playing them there and fixing them, or doing little adjustments on them, and they were so impressive. So yeah, and now I have all Yanagisawas.
Nice. Yeah, and Julian actually studied with Antonio Hart in Queens as well. So really, really small world. So Julian says, "Hi Jay, good to hear and see you. Really love all the videos you've done from reviews to interviews. Totally dug both the Bruce Williams and Jason Marshall interviews. Back to basics. Oh,
Yeah,
thanks, Julian. Nice to see you from KL. Let's
yeah, oh,
see.
it's cool. So Julian went to Queens too. Great.
Yeah. Awesome. And I think he also, when he studied under Antonio, I think he really got into the Yanagisawas as well. So Yeah, I know he loves them.
Yeah.
We have Charles. Charles is asking, yeah, he says he has a Gets Music Repairs New York sticker on the case of his Yanagisawa Sopranino. Was Gets your teacher?
Mark Gatz. Yeah, I studied with Mark Gatz. How is that possible that you have that and you're in Thailand?
Yeah.
That Mark Gatz was my teacher, and he passed away a few years ago. And yeah, I got a lot. He was such a great saxophone player, and he is the one that got me into repairing saxophones. So when I started studying with Mark, I was a teenager, and I would go to his house, and he's the one that told me, listen, if you want to survive as a musician, you got to do as many different things as you can.
Wow.
And he had a little shop at the time. He had a little shop in his basement of his house where he was doing repairs, and he showed me some things, got me started. And he showed me, and Mark, this is really the introduction to me being a professional saxophone player. One day, I think I had taken like 2 or 3 lessons from him. And I was a kid. I was maybe 17, 18 years old, I think.
Mm.
And I get a phone call, and it's Mark, and he's like, "Do you have a tuxedo?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I have a tuxedo. I had a tuxedo because I needed it for my concerts at university. You know, yeah, I have a tuxedo." He's like, "Okay, write this down." And he gives me an address. He's like, "Saturday at this time, you got a gig. Bring your tuxedo and don't be late, or I'll kill you." And then he hangs up. And I'm like, "But what do you mean? I didn't know." And he was like one of the top saxophone players on
Wow.
in the area on Long Island. And I'm like a kid, So I'm like, how am I going to sub for you on this gig? And I went in. This was a huge learning experience. So I went in there, panicked. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. And I had my tuxedo, and I got there, and it was a wedding in New York City, in Little Italy, at this big place where they do weddings, and all the players are New York City musicians, great musicians. And I'm like, uh, yeah, at the beginning of my career, and everyone was so supportive and nice to me, which is not, and everyone's like, "Oh, it's okay. You don't know the tunes. You learn it all as you go." When I started, I didn't know anything either. Just listen and follow along, and you'll get it all. that was like introduction into playing gigs, and that's what happened. I don't know if it's so easy to do that. Back then, there was a lot of work, and you could and there was this big network of musicians,
Mm.
and people were comfortable enough with the amount of work that
Mm.
if someone came in who was just starting out, they would be like, "Oh, I'll show you how this works,"
Mm.
because everyone was working, everyone had enough work, I think.
Mm.
Um, I don't know if nowadays that's as realistic for people to be able to do that. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. And Charles says he bought the saxophone from a guy in Long Island 2 summers ago.
So
Wow.
that's interesting. So that saxophone, yeah. So that's great. Well, that's where it would be. And
Mm.
oh, so it's a
That,
sopranino. I see. Yeah. Well,
yeah.
that's great. That was worked on, or at least sold by Mark.
Wow.
So
Small world. Small world.
yeah,
Crazy. And Julian was like, Mel Martin, may he rest in peace. And Julian says, Jay, you study with Antonio. Wow, yeah, you guys are really
a really
connected
small
as
world.
well.
Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. Let me jump up a bit. We have Edgar. Hi, Edgar from Costa Rica. Hans, yes, the late soprano saxophone. And Brock, thank you so much. I think I saw Jay sharing your video on Instagram about you starting to learn. Daniel Saw says he also bought the late soprano. Sounds good and inexpensive. Thanks to Jay. Wow, Jay, you should be.
I know. And I have that company. They never even sent me like an email or anything. I have zero connection with them.
Yeah, it's
And
so
after
fun.
that video has like 5.5 million views, you'd think
Yeah,
somebody would be like, "Oh,
yeah.
thank you." I don't even know if they're aware of
Yeah,
that.
I don't think so either. But yeah, maybe one of you can try to contact Late and tell them about Jay. Uh Udom says, "Hi Jay, are you teaching saxophone repair as well?"
No, I've had a few people say, "Oh, that would be something nice to do." I've done some YouTube videos about it. I don't know if anyone's seen. I've done. It's the sort of thing you can't. You need to learn by doing, and in order to do it, you need some broken instruments, or you can't.
Yeah.
So, and I don't. I'm careful not to tell people do this if you need your saxophone to play, and you could hurt yourself and you could hurt your instrument doing it. So
Yeah.
it's. But I have considered maybe doing like a course on basic instrument repair. Maybe.
I think that was the Bob Reynolds video, right? With his saxophone. Yeah.
That was one. That was one. Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah.
cool. Ismail is also saying, yeah, she has um two store owners, and they will say that horns, Chinese horns are poor quality, and to buy American. Yeah, I mean, every store owner has their own reasons, I guess. Yeah, let's see. And Daniel says he paid $180 for a new black soprano from eBay. That's a really good price.
Well, I also, another thing I tell people, the best value is usually a used instrument. And because you can get professional level instruments at much less than the price new. When you're buying a used instrument, like a professional instrument, those instruments are bought by, the people buying them are investing a lot of money. They're going to take good care of that instrument, unlike like a really inexpensive instrument, for example.
Yeah.
So the best value is always looking for like a used Yamaha, used Selmer, or used Yanagisawa on eBay, but you need to kind of know what you're looking for.
Mm.
And that's where people, if you don't know the ins and outs and what you're buying, it's difficult to get that used instrument. But that's usually the best value.
Yeah, for sure. Jay, I wanted to talk about this. I don't go on the Sex on the Web forum a lot nowadays. But I went on recently, and one of the posts caught my attention. It was this post about the Jody Jazz giveaway, and I was very familiar with the Jody Jazz giveaway. Your video of it was amazing, and I'm a Jody Jazz lover myself. Play all their mouthpieces. And but this post, I think it was saying, I think someone mentioned that, oh, Jay gets all these, nice free mouthpieces and all. And obviously I know, there's a lot more to that. But maybe, Jay, you could share a bit on, what is it like, when you, let's say, review mouthpieces, review saxophones. And I know it could be a touchy topic, but yeah, I just want.
No, not at all. In fact, and this is actually, I've been planning a video for YouTube specifically about this. So you can watch out for that video where I'm going to really explain everything, because everyone deserves to know exactly kind of what's happening. And also because I get a lot of comments, and some people, and I saw that post. I think I even commented on that post.
Yeah.
Because people were saying things like, "Oh yeah, how is it that he likes all of those mouthpieces? That's impossible. He must be not being honest." And so I responded, and I just said, "Well, listen, I do like all those mouthpieces. It would not be. I get those mouthpieces for free usually, but not really in exchange. And then it's like, if I want to do a video on them, I do them. The mouthpieces are sent to me, and I only really do videos about gear and things that I like or I think will bring value to the audience. But not everything is given to me. Like the Roland videos. I just bought those things, and those laid saxophones. But a lot of times I just buy something if people are asking me all the time, can you do a video about this, do about this? And sometimes the company will send it to me, but sometimes I'll just go buy it myself. Besides that, I don't take any payment for making the videos, even though I get asked to do that all the time. I refuse any sort of payment for videos because for me, it would just be, I'm just speaking for myself. I would feel a little bit unethical kind of doing it, because then it's not a review, it's more of a commercial. You know, if you're getting paid by the company, then you're just really doing an advertisement. And it should be, it should say it's an advertisement. So I don't take any money for that reason. And also, if you get paid by the company, then they're going to want to control what you're saying a little bit. They're going to want to see the video before you publish it, before they pay you for, so there's going to be conditions. So with all of my videos, there's no conditions. It's all my personal thoughts. There are, for most of the products, there is going to be affiliate links. And this is, everybody on YouTube does this. But that's really the way that allows me to spend 3 or 4 days making a video, so about a product I like. If afterwards, if I make that Jody Jazz video or any of the other ones, and then I really like the product and everybody goes and buys that product and I get nothing for all that work, I wouldn't be able to continue making these videos like I do. So it's kind of the way I do it. And I think a lot of YouTubers do something similar that I think works for everybody, works for the audience, works for the creator, and it definitely works well for the brands,
Yeah. I mean, I saw the number of entries that you got for that Jody Jazz giveaway was pretty amazing. And I think if anyone thinks that Jay or any other creator is doing this for free products, man, I think there are way better ways of
Oh yeah.
of earning some cash.
Yeah.
And if anyone is curious, they can try to do a video edit of a 10-minute video and see how long it takes them,
Yeah.
to really know. And yeah, it's just something that, I thought would be nice to talk about, on this show as well, because, it's always easier to be looking from outside and, and just, very easy to comment nowadays on social media, or, Jay is taking, this and that from all these companies. But man,
Oh yeah.
how much. Yeah.
And like the one product that I endorse officially is Yanagisawa. I'm a Yanagisawa artist, but they give me nothing. I mean, I love those guys. They're really great, but they don't, I mean, I have their saxophones in every video. They get millions of views and I'm constantly telling people, but they're not giving me they're not paying me to do that. And if anybody knows Yanagisawa, that's how they work. They're very organic.
Yeah.
And even as an artist, I still have to pay for the saxophones. They give you an artist discount, but so there's really no, there's not, and nobody is really offering any artists enough of a financial incentive to lie about anything anyway. No saxophone company has enough money to pay any artist, enough to say something that's not true.
Yeah.
At least as far as I know. So, it's not very lucrative,
Yeah, for sure. And I think Saunders here has a good point. Your honesty is above reproach. And, for me, I see, sometimes I see certain Instagram accounts and every single post is a paid sponsorship. Obviously they are, taking money to do a post. And for me, I switch off, because it's just I almost like I can't trust anything the person says, because every single post they are saying this product is the best that they've ever come across. And some of these lifestyle, I think there's nothing bad with building a strong brand, a blog, a YouTube channel, but I guess people can sniff out sincerity very easily. So
Well, that's the thing. So we're all on the internet all the time now. And the internet is one enormous commercial, right? You are being advertised to every second from multiple spots on your screen, on your phone. Everyone's advertising to you. And I'm like everybody else. I know everything's an advertisement. So, and I'm treating everything. So I try to do the opposite. And I know if I say really positive things about something, it's inevitably it's going to sound like it's a commercial, you know. And if there's everyone's always going to think you have some ulterior motive for what you're saying, and there's nothing you could do about it. But you could, try to be honest. And I think people can read body language a little bit, and people can make up their own minds. But yeah, I look at it. I'm just like everybody else. I'm on the internet. I know I don't want people to lie to me, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I also use YouTube when I'm buying something that I'm not an expert on. I use YouTube to just help me make a decision, like everybody does.
Yeah.
And I have bought lots of things because I watched somebody's YouTube video and I was like, wow, this is fantastic. I'm so glad I was able to make an informed decision about something I know very little about because someone told me. So I just try to do that, provide good information for somebody like they're my neighbor. Like if they just came up and asked me, I would say the same thing.
Yeah, for sure. I think YouTube is the second biggest search engine in the world.
Yeah,
We do everything on there. So I think, for me personally, I really appreciate the videos you do, because the value it gives to so many people. For those videos to have, millions of views, people want those questions answered.
yeah.
So I think it's amazing. And we have Julian here, and Julian is a Yanagisawa artist as well. So he says regarding Yanagisawa saxophones, yeah, it's you guys want to promote it, because it's open that and known that they don't
Yeah.
just give out their saxophones for free.
And they don't do any marketing. I mean, their marketing is essentially zero. So,
Yeah,
and even
yeah,
with their artists, they don't. I mean, and they don't even like I'll tag them in Instagram posts and that. I don't think anybody even looks at their Instagram. They don't even know. They're just busy making saxophones. I
yeah.
think. I don't
Funny
think
thing,
they're concerned about marketing whatsoever.
yeah. Funny thing, I last checked. I checked just a few days ago their Instagram channel, and I think the last post was like 2018. So
Yeah. So,
that says everything.
yeah.
So we have Les Zach says, "Hey Jay, greetings from
Oh,
Poland."
hey
Wow.
man, how's it going?
Oh,
Cool.
that's awesome. I'm gonna do the comments backwards now since I scrolled down all the way. We have Sean. Sean says, "Hi Jay and Daniel. What do y'all think about P. Moret saxophones? Have been watching you guys' videos for quite a while. Keep up the great work. Thank you." So Jay, do you have any more feedback or comments on P. Moret?
I mean, I've played them at trade shows and stuff. Uh, I have never owned one. I never spent a significant amount of time with it,
Mm, mm,
but they play nice. I played them a lot at NAM this year, and I liked the horns. They're doing
mm,
some very interesting things.
mm,
So I think they look cool. I know like Derek Brown is playing that. Jason Marshall's playing that.
mm,
Lots of great players are playing those and loving those instruments.
mm, mm.
So I say try them. If you like it, then get that one.
Yeah, for me, yeah, I've played many models. I have a good friend, called Mr. Saxman in Thailand, who is one of the artists, and he sells it in the shop. I don't sell it in my shop currently. I've been asked to many times. I just feel like my personal opinion. I think the sound is great, but the price point can be a bit tricky for some people, because they'll be instantly comparing it to, like, okay, if I'm paying that price, I just top up a bit and I can get a Selma or
Right.
82Z or what. So I think that's that competition they might be having. People will be like, why am I paying that price for a Taiwanese horn? So
And I agree with you. I would say if you have that, but I would say the exact same thing. If you have the budget, I would get a Yanagisawa, but I don't want to tell people what I would do. If you
yeah.
love that horn, then get that one. But try Yanagisawa first because it's better.
Yeah, so yeah, that's our opinion.
Yeah.
Of course, we can't play every single saxophone in the world, but yeah, for sure they're nice horns. But for every given budget, I think there are many good options. So
Yeah.
definitely good to keep your options open. Let me see. Nicole says, I think Yanagisawa artists should at least get a Yanagisawa horn. Uh, I'm sure everyone would hope for that.
Yeah, but the thing, what's crazy about this, and I know a lot of Yanagisawa artists, and we're all always buying new ones, ordering new ones from them,
Yeah,
even though that's how crazy it is. You know,
very crazy
they and every saxophone that they make gets sold.
for sure.
They're just trying to keep up, and I think now you even have to wait for a lot of
Oh,
models. There's a long list of
yeah,
waiting.
six
So
to 9 months, and they limit the number you can order even as a dealer. So they don't lack the demand, that's for sure. And I don't think they are willing to compromise on
yeah,
speeding up the process. So they're just
right.
happy.
Right,
So if
similar
you
to
want,
that philosophy when I was in Copenhagen, in Denmark. That same
yeah,
philosophy, like, no, this is the
yeah,
quality, and we're never going to sacrifice that,
yeah. I think I
even if we
probably
can
have.
make more.
Hmm,
Yeah.
yeah, I probably have more experience with Ishimori saxophones. But same philosophy. These Japanese guys, they are
Mm.
like, when I first started to one, I had to literally beg Ishimori to let me sell their stuff in my shop for 2 years. Because they just said we cannot fulfill your order. And they probably don't need to have more dealers as well. They can just sell out of Tokyo and be happy at that. And I kept asking and kept asking, and they says, okay, for your ligatures, I can do the instruments and the reeds and stuff, but ligatures, absolutely no. You would have to wait too long. I'll be like, just throw me out, just throw me a number, a crazy number. They were like, 1 year. Are you willing to wait? I was like, sure. And that allowed me to get the leg in, and in the end it came in like 6 to 9 months, and they sell out almost instantly, and then I have to wait for the next batch. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's a difficult position because I'm sort of the middleman, so I love the goods to come in faster, but I don't want them to compromise as well. So it's it's very tricky working with some of these Japanese companies and some other companies as well. Even Trevor James, like the signature custom models, do not leave the UK until it's physically serviced and checked by David, who designed them. So there's a physical backlog there. They're not willing to let anything go, without it being checked. So I love companies like this, but
Yeah.
yeah, sometimes there is a pressure, from customers who are waiting, but yeah, let me see. Young asks, just wondering, how does Yamaha compare to Cowworth? Jay, what do you think?
Wow. They're both, high level saxophones. There's definitely differences. The Cotterworths are sort of like a bit of an outlier, and they have their own unique thing.
Mm,
Where the Yamahas, yeah, I mean, all these different brands have their character, so they're definitely different. And some people are going to prefer one to the other. You got to try them.
yeah, that would be my answer as well. And Julian says, yeah, thanks, Jay and Daniel, and see you guys soon. Thanks, Julian, for popping by.
Yeah.
And Ben says the best horn is the one you love and can afford at any given point of time. That's very true. I
Yeah.
think no point spending 3 4 months salary just to, own a horn, and I think no point putting yourself in debt as well. I think definitely
Oh,
great
yeah.
choices at every budget. We have Tony Lakatos. Thanks, Tony. Hope you're doing well. Tony says life is too short not to play your best horn. Yeah, I totally
True.
agree as well. And Tony has a very nice collection of vintage Selmas. So yeah, that's definitely good. Daniel says, Jay, have you tried the vibrato saxophones?
I have played one of those at some point. I've been, I did get a few messages from the guy who makes them. He said he was coming out with a tenor, or he's got a new tenor out, and he kept
Yeah.
telling me he's going to send me one. He told me his son is a big fan of Bettersax channel, but I haven't gotten one. If I do get one, I'll make a video about it because I think it's really interesting, and I know a lot of people have questions about it. But
Mm.
yeah,
Yeah, I've been following them as well. And if I'm not wrong, the tenors are released already and they actually come in pieces. so you actually have to fix it yourself.
Cool.
Yeah. So they decided to go that model, which makes sense, if you're gonna save a lot on shipping, by not shipping it in the shape of a tenor sax in a case. So that's it. I'm curious also, but I think one thing about a vibrato is the price point is not cheap.
Hmm.
So for some people, like in Singapore dollars, I think we would have to sell it for about 800 to 900 Singapore dollars, when a Yamaha student model could be 1,000 plus. So it's not gonna be like a toy that you could
Hmm.
just have for fun. So maybe that will be my
I
my
think that
comment.
the question is why? Why get that saxophone instead of another? And
Yeah.
the only real answer I've seen is the weight. For some reason, a
Mm,
saxophone is too heavy.
mm,
But other than that, I don't see
mm,
why you would want that rather than
mm,
a metal
mm.
saxophone.
Yeah. And I mean, if it's 100 or 200 bucks, sure, for novelty, that might be cool. Daniel, actually, he asked, but he's not sure how easy to play. I've actually tried them a lot, even in Thailand, right in their office. They are, and I actually tried the prototype tenor. I need to dig out that video. It actually sounded good on the video when I took the video to the listener, but I was struggling like crazy. But that was a prototype tenor. Wasn't the easiest to play, and the altos, I found the tuning was really difficult. No matter, it's just weird. Like maybe the variance in the tuning is so crazy if I just move
Mm.
my lip a bit. So that was a bit, yeah, hard to control. But yeah, that's just our opinion for now. Looks like we have a lot of saxophone specific questions. But George says both Jay and Scott Paddock are great saxophone teachers on YouTube. Would there be any plans for you guys to have some form of collaboration?
Well, we haven't talked about that. But I've been in touch with Scott. He every now and then he sends me a message. We send each other messages with
Mm,
little questions and things. But no, we haven't. That's not something we've talked about. Scott was very busy up until recently touring
yeah.
with Eros Ramazzotti.
Mm,
So now he's like everybody else. He's kind of on hold, waiting for things to go back to normal.
yeah.
I guess he's been making some YouTube videos again and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe we should do something.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good one, George. I actually, totally, yeah, haven't thought of Scott in a while, but yeah, we've kept in touch, and probably I might invite Scott onto my show as well. I know he's a lot of people love his funky alto sound, and because I sell Barkley mouthpieces in my shop, and I sell a lot of the blue ones thanks to him. People will just they would just tell me, can I have whatever he's playing, the BG duo with the Barkley. So for sure he has a nice pool, and on soprano and tenor he's playing Scios now. So yeah,
Hmm.
but thanks George for that. We'll definitely think how we can get Scott for sure. Hans. Hans says, how important is it to have a good versus basic ligature? I think Jay, you have a nice video on that. But
Yeah.
any quick thought?
Yeah, ligature is like the last thing you need to worry about, really. You need to worry about your saxophone, all the pad sealing, a good reed, a good mouthpiece. If anything in that chain is not working right, your ligature is your last problem, the last thing to worry about. So you can worry about the ligature when everything else is basically perfect. Then you can start saying, all right, I'm going to put this tiny little improvement with a really nice ligature versus a basic ligature. But, if your horn is leaking, for example, or if your reed is bad, your ligature is meaningless.
Mm, mm, for sure. Yeah, I think we have a lot of saxophone related questions, but I definitely don't want this to be, a totally gear talk session. So maybe I would love to ask Jay a question. We were speaking a bit earlier before this, and Jay, have you made a conscious decision to not gig at all, or be a bit more choosy with your gigs, or with your
Oh,
schedule?
yeah. Yeah, I had to make a conscious decision to basically just tell everybody to stop calling stop calling me for gigs because I want to focus on something else.
Mm,
It's also I have a 4-year-old daughter. She's going to be 5 in a few days. And it's nice to have the luxury to spend a lot of time with her, like I do. And when I was gigging, so like in the summers, I would gig, and sometimes I would be doing gigs every single day. And if you're doing that, how are you gonna play with your kids and go to the beach or just do family things? So being able to kind of structure my time with the YouTube channel and the website has allowed me. I decide when I do what I do, which is it's a great luxury, and I don't miss doing the gigs. I still play, but now people call me when they have like a fun gig, a jazz gig, or thing. So I do a couple of gigs every month, but no, I don't miss that, and it was a conscious decision.
Mm. Was this something you've been thinking of for a while already, or just this year? Or
Well, I basically stopped working, playing as my main source of income maybe almost 2 years ago now. And then the gigs gradually, slowed when I kind of just got out of the commitments I was in, where I was regularly working with different bands. And, and then I spent full time doing the YouTube thing, and that became my main job.
mm,
And now, and like for example, for traveling gigs, unless it's like something really interesting I want to do, like last year I played at the North Sea Jazz Festival. So if you call me to play North Sea Jazz Festival, I'm there. You know what I mean?
yeah,
But if you call me to play somebody's wedding in London, I'm not going. You know.
mm,
So
for sure. And I'm sure that must have been, it's not an easy choice to make. Sometimes as professional musicians, that could be like, like gig suicide. Like one person stops calling you, and then probably everyone just says, let's not call.
well,
Say
it's a thing that your whole life, your whole professional career, you're like, I have to say yes to every gig. So it's a habit. You just say yes, 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 and then you have to, like, at some point, it's like a leap of faith. You have to say, okay, I'm gonna stop doing this. And I'm gonna focus on this other thing, and I gotta make that work. And I'm lucky that I was able to do that,
yeah.
and
Yeah.
I'm happy with that decision.
Yeah, and I mean, I really respect that also, because as musicians, it's tough. It's tough to say, like, I'm just gonna, focus, solely on one thing, and I've been struggling with that for a long time as well. Same thing like everyone. I wanted to say yes to everything, and sometimes I didn't go the traditional route of going through music college and all, but I just started performing and playing a lot, and I always tell people there's only that many days in a row that you can have lobster and wagyu, before getting a little, sick of it, So I think, I did all of that, 7 days a week. I think craziest one was like, 10 gigs a week, for a good 4-year period of just crazily gigging, and I just had to ask myself, is this what I want to do, every single day for the rest of my life? And the answer was no, because I think I enjoyed a lot more if I did it once or twice a week, or even
Mm.
once or twice a month. Even if live streaming I went a bit crazy, this is probably my 40th live stream episode, so I went a bit obsessive at the start. Like this week is an exception, because I was just so excited to get everyone on, But yeah, I just told myself I need to pace it out, and I think it's a luxury, and definitely not luck in any way. I think for yourself also, it's years of establishing what you wanted to do, and to leave space for family, and that control over that time. And yeah, definitely inspirational, and and something for all of us to think about as well. So really appreciate that for sure. And let's see. I think Saunders had an interesting question. Like, Jay, were you from a musical family?
Yeah, I think somebody had asked something about that earlier.
Yes, I think it was
That's
him
a
as
great
well.
question. So,
Mm,
my father was a musician, but not a professional musician. He played music every day. He played guitar, he played the banjo, he sang. Whenever there was gatherings, parties, he was like entertaining everyone. And he would be performing at church all the time, playing music, but never as a career. His father was a professional musician, bluegrass musician, bluegrass banjo, mandolin player, um, and singer. So there was definitely music passed on my father's side. And then my wife now is a great musician. She's a singer, songwriter, guitar player. Can you share her? It's at Marjorie Martinez Music on Instagram if you want to check out my wife's. Just go, everyone go and leave a comment and a like and then she's like, oh yeah.
How do you spell that, Jay? I'm gonna type it right now.
Can I write it here? Is that possible? Or
No, yeah,
oh, okay.
it doesn't.
Okay,
Yeah,
so it's Marjorie Marjorie
yeah.
Martinez Martinez music, and that's on Instagram. Yeah.
All right. Okay, Jay, you can take a look and see if I typed that correctly.
Yeah, that's right.
That's right.
Yeah. So just everyone just go and like give some likes and hi and say hi comments, and then she'll be like, "Oh, you mentioned me somewhere," because all these saxophone players are saying, But she does. She's great. She does great music.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And as far as my daughter goes, yeah. I mean, I'm not planning on forcing music on her, even though it's funny. Like, I always thought, oh, when I have kids, they're going to be great musicians because I don't want them to miss out. If only I started music earlier and got more lessons when I was little, then I would be, you think that. And then when you have kids, you're like, I just want them to be happy and do what they want to do.
Yeah.
And I think pressuring someone to do music because that's what you want to do or you would want as a parent, it kind of sends the opposite message. And I think that's a trap a lot of people fall into. So my daughter loves music. She sings, but I give her like, here's this instrument. And if she wants to play it, she does it. If she wants to play piano, if she wants to play whatever, I'm not going to put a lot of pressure on her, and we'll see what happens. But she's, I hope she does want to play music, not professionally, but for all the pleasure and the good things that come from that.
For sure. Yeah, Ishmael says, it's important to be there for the kids and not miss out over gigging. The gigs will always be there. It's a huge piece of advice from my older musician friends. And I think, I don't have kids myself, but I think this applies to every other thing, not just your kids. And I know I've been following Bob Reynolds, his vlogs as well. And I think he I won't say struggles, but he thinks a lot about the same things as well. I'm sure, with 2 kids, young kids, and he definitely doesn't want to miss out on them growing up as well. I think it's definitely a very real issue
for everybody. That's another thing that musicians don't have is sort of like, you're working at night a lot of times. So, the kids are at school during the day when everyone else is at work. But when you're a musician, who takes care of your kids and especially like in my family, when my wife and I work together, you have to get a babysitter, you have to. So it's, there's a lot of complications for musicians when it comes to family.
Just a quick question. What were some of the types of gigs that you were commonly doing where you are? What do they look like?
Where I am now in France?
Yep.
Well, there's a lot of the typical things, we do. It's in the summer. There's like a lot of these outdoor sort of concerts. They have this whole outdoor concert series that is, again, sort of sponsored by the municipalities, by the cities. So they have a whole system of basically bands auditioning to be programmed into these concerts, and they're very nice because you're on a big stage and there's the lights and the sound and you have everything there and a nice audience. So there's a lot of that. We have the Nice Jazz Festival, which of course this year is not happening, but when that's happening, there's a lot of other jazz performances all around for weeks before, all around in the surrounding areas. So, and a lot of the stuff takes place outside, so that's very nice. Because even though it's summertime here, it's not oppressively hot either. So it's really great. There is, and then also very close to where I live is Monaco. If you watch like James Bond movies, there's like Monaco,
Yeah.
and it's a very bizarre sort of little tiny city. But there, I do a lot of work there. I have over the years because there's a lot of events there.
Mm.
And then you have Cannes, like you said, you were here for Midem.
Mm.
I used to do play for a lot of things, a lot of events at the Cannes Film Festival every year, and the Lions Club and Midem, and all of these things that would happen every year. So where I'm at, I think it's a special place in the world because there's so much special events that happen here, and it's a place where you have very wealthy people. So when it comes to like doing private gigs,
Mm.
you're often playing parties and there's rock stars or movie stars or just famous people there. So it's kind of it's a special place for working. And I did do a lot of gigs for
Mm.
sort of well-known people, so which was fun.
Nice, nice. And yeah, I think it's we're gonna be almost at the 2 hour mark already. Really appreciate Jay's time. Time flies really fast. And I realized that there are a lot of saxophone specific questions, which we love, but from day one I always wanted to make sure that there's something for non-saxophonists as well. So if you have more questions, you can always, leave comments on Jay's videos, or find a way to contact him directly, or myself as well. I personally make sure I reply to all comments, so you can comment on this YouTube video after the show as well, and we can try our best to answer them. But maybe I think it might be a good one to end off with this one last question from Sean. And Sean is talking about motivation to practice. So maybe Jay, you can share, how do you, keep the motivation to practice and get started again.
That's a great question, and I answered that in my last Q&A video from 2 weeks ago on YouTube.
Mm.
But what I said was, yeah, it's tough to get the motivation to practice, right? First of all, you want practicing to be a habit. So there's a certain amount of like forcing yourself to do it, like forcing yourself to exercise. Some things in life, there are times when you need to force yourself to do it, even if it's for a short amount of time, because that's how you develop a good habit. If you let it go too long, that's bad. Exercise, sometimes you might not be in the mood whatsoever, but you have to do it, because if you stop it, you lose your momentum and then things just go bad. So there's a part of it is kind of forcing yourself on the bad days to do it. On the regular days, I think the thing to do is listen to music a lot and use that to kind of launch yourself into being inspired to practice. I think a lot of people don't listen enough, myself included. I do spend time every day listening to music. But that's in busy lives, that's something that kind of gets pushed aside, setting aside time to listen. So what I do is I exercise and listen to music at the same time, which is great. I'm doing two things at once.
Mhm.
And inevitably, so I'll be listening to that music, whatever it is, and it's always giving me ideas. Oh, maybe I'll transcribe that, or maybe I'll be, just ideas, things to then go work on. And nowadays, there's so much, all this, everyone's watching YouTube content all the time. If you're watching YouTube and somebody's inspiring you, turn it off and go play. You know what I mean? Like, watch it for a bit, get some inspired practice, but then turn it off and go play the saxophone.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, I think that's really great advice. My wife, she's a vocalist as well, and she was just mentioning today, it's been a long time for her, to really just sit down and listen to music as well. And she made the comment that, if there's no good input coming in, it's going to be quite hard to have, good musical output as well. So, definitely something I need to apply more in my own life as well. To be honest, I don't know when I just really sat down and listened to an album from start to finish. It's, yeah, and I always find it ironic that this is what I do for a living, and I do so little of that. So
Yeah.
definitely something to work on. And it's funny that you mentioned, when you listen to a piece of music and you can just stop and just go and practice. The funny thing is, I've had people telling me that they get inspired after listening to some of my guests on the show, and they actually just mute it and go and practice for a
Yeah.
while, because they get inspired to pick up the horn straight away, and that's so amazing, you
Yeah.
know. And yeah, I really appreciate that as well.
You know
um
what? Tell people watch YouTube with your saxophone in your hands if you can. Because I do that sometimes, and then play along. If somebody's doing a lesson, play along with them,
yeah.
or kind of listen a little bit and practice. Keep the saxophone in your hands.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome advice. And yeah, thank you guys so much for all those questions. I wish we could go on longer, but it's also getting late in Singapore. And I'm really surprised that you guys are staying up with me here in Asia. It's past midnight already. I have an early show with Jeff Kashiwa tomorrow morning as well. So hope you guys will be joining us for that as well. Thank you for all those of you who stayed with us today. And if you are new to YouTube, do subscribe, and do subscribe to Jay's channel as well. I'm going to drop it in here one more time, and check out all his videos to Jay's channel. And I'm going to drop in his website as well, where you can purchase his courses, and do look out for Jay's group classes possibly. Keep in touch on social media. And yeah, cool. Thank you so much, guys. We really love doing these shows, and thank you, Jay, so much once again for your time and really insightful sharing. If you guys have any more questions, you can reach out personally. And yeah, I hope we get to keep in touch, and maybe down the road do another follow-up episode. And yeah, Jay, any final words for the people watching here?
Well, just thanks anybody who's watching this. Thanks for watching and the support and hold on, and all the support all over the years, and it's very much appreciated. And that's what keeps me doing what I'm doing. So
Mm, that's awesome.
yeah.
Cool. Thank you so much, guys. And then for those in Singapore, I'll see you at 10 a.m. tomorrow. In the US, that will be, yeah, later tonight. And yeah, it's a great Jeff Kashiwa. I'm looking forward a lot to that as well. But if not, I'll see you guys soon, and have a good day.
Okay. Bye, everybody. Bye, Daniel. Thanks.
Bye. See you.
Bye bye.